We look at that drawer every day and pretend everything is fine. We push another item inside when it no longer closes properly. The corners accumulate what we haven't used in months, and with each passing day, we feel that silent weight growing in our home. Have you noticed how clutter takes up not just physical space but mental space as well? For years I lived surrounded by objects that no longer served me, in a house that always seemed to be screaming for attention. Chaos was my norm. Then one Sunday, sitting on the floor of my room, surrounded by piles of clothes I hadn't worn in years, I felt something break inside me. It was no longer possible to continue like this. The truth is that every unnecessary object in our home steals a little bit of our peace every day. That packed closet is not just a space issue, it's a silent thief of our tranquility. What I discovered transformed not just my home, but my entire relationship with space, with objects, and with myself. Today I want to share with you the 3 areas of the house that attract the most problems, and how to transform them into areas of harmony and order, inspired by the wisdom of Japanese minimalism. This is not just about organization, it's a journey of liberation. My transformation began at the entrance of the house, the first of the 3 critical points. Think of the entrance as the portal between the outside world and your personal sanctuary. I observed how in Japanese tradition, this space is treated with reverence, a transitional place where we leave behind the chaos of the outside world before entering our refuge. In my house, the entrance had become an improvised storage area. Shoes scattered everywhere, coats piled up, lost keys, unopened mail. It was as if all the stress of the day was dumped there as soon as I opened the door. And that chaotic energy spread throughout the rest of the house. I started with a deep clean. I removed everything that didn't belong in that space. I created a simple system. Only the current season's shoes would be visible. The rest was stored in organizer boxes. I installed hooks at eye level to hang just the coat of the day, a small ceramic bowl for the keys, a slim folder for important mail. The result was impressive. Upon entering my home after a tiring day, I was no longer greeted by chaos, but by a space that invited me to breathe and slow down. I realized that an organized entryway set the tone for the entire house. It was as if those first steps into an orderly environment programmed my mind to maintain that same order in other spaces. This is a truth I have learned. When we enter an organized environment, we naturally feel inclined to keep it that way. It's as if the space educates us, silently. The second problematic corner I transformed was the kitchen. This space that should nourish our bodies often becomes a source of stress. Drawers stuffed with utensils that we use once a year. Cabinets filled with dishes we save for special occasions that never come. Forgotten food at the back of the pantry. My kitchen had turned into a minefield of daily frustrations. I couldn't find what I needed. Preparing a simple meal required removing and replacing dozens of unnecessary items. The countertop was cluttered with small appliances that were rarely used, reducing the usable workspace. Inspired by the principles of Japanese minimalism, I decided my kitchen would be a space of serene functionality. First, I completely emptied the cabinets. Each item underwent the same rigorous questioning. Have I used this in the last 6 months? Does this object bring me joy, or does it just take up space? It was surprising to realize how many things I kept out of obligation or just in case. 3 sets of silverware for someone who lives alone, 5 frying pans when I always use the same one. Kitchen appliances purchased in moments of excitement that were now gathering dust. I kept only the essentials and the items I truly loved using. I organized the cabinets in such a way that I could see everything at once, without having to remove anything to reach another object. I kept the surfaces clear, except for the items I used daily. The effect was immediate. Cooking stopped being a stressful task and became a moment of pleasure. With fewer options, the decisions became simpler. With more space, my movements flowed naturally. I began to appreciate each utensil I kept, using them with more care and attention. A tidy kitchen taught me about the beauty of simplicity. When we eliminate the excess, we create space to appreciate what really matters. Food began to taste better. Meals had more meaning. The third area that revolutionized my life was the bedroom. This space, which should be our refuge for rest, often becomes a disguised storage area. Drawers overflowing with clothes we don't wear. Nightstands piled with books we never finished reading. Items tucked under the bed temporarily that remain there for years. My bedroom had turned into a claustrophobic space. I slept surrounded by reminders, unfinished projects and unrealized possibilities. Each object carried energy, an expectation, an obligation, a memory that prevented me from being fully present. The transformation started with the closet. I took out all my clothes and divided them into 3 piles. The ones I use and love, those I haven't worn in over a year, and the ones I keep for emotional reasons but don't wear. It was a painful yet liberating process. I realized I was holding on to clothes in 3 different sizes, waiting to gain or lose weight. Clothes that didn't match my current style, but represented who I thought I should be. I kept only the pieces I truly wore, and that made me feel good. I organized them by type and color, leaving space between the hangers. The result was transformative. Opening the closet became an experience of clarity and choice instead of guilt and confusion, allowing me to align with who I really am today. Next, I simplified my bedside table. Just the current book, a glass of water, and a small vase with a single flower. I removed the TV from my room and created a small meditation space in the corner where it used to be. I eliminated all the items stored under the bed. The bedroom became a true sanctuary. The quality of my sleep improved significantly. I noticed I slept better in a space where energy could flow freely without being blocked by accumulated objects. My thoughts became clearer, less agitated. Waking up was more peaceful. The minimalist bedroom taught me about the importance of margins in life. Just as a book needs white space along the edges of the pages for the text to breathe and be understood, our lives need empty spaces for us to process our experiences and find meaning. By transforming these 3 corners of my home, entrance, kitchen, and bedroom, I realized I was changing much more than physical spaces. I was altering my relationship with consumption, with time, and with my own emotions. I started to notice patterns that I had previously overlooked, how I bought items not out of necessity, but to fill emotional voids, how I accumulated objects out of fear of needing them in the future, revealing a deep insecurity, how I kept gifts that didn't please me out of guilt, placing the expectations of others above my well-being. Japanese minimalism taught me that every object in our home should have a purpose or bring us joy, that true abundance is not in quantity, but in the quality of our choices. That empty space is not a problem to be filled, but an opportunity to breathe. One of the practices I adopted is the daily 5-minute organization ritual. Before going to bed, I take a few moments to return items to their places. I fold the throw blanket on the sofa. I put the books back on the shelf. I wipe down the kitchen countertop. These small actions create a sense of closure for the day and prepare the environment for a fresh start in the morning. Another transformative practice was the rule of entry and exit. For every new item that comes into the house, another must go out. This forced me to be more mindful about my purchases, to ask, does this item deserve to take up space in my life? Is it worth letting go of something I already have to make room for it? I also learned to appreciate the items I keep, to treat them with respect and care. I realize that when we have less, we naturally take better care of what we have. My clothes last longer because I have space to store them properly. My kitchen utensils remain in good condition because they aren't stacked on top of one another. The minimalist home also taught me about the beauty of enough. We live in a society that constantly tells us we need more. More clothes, more gadgets, more of everything. Minimalism is an act of resistance. It's saying, this is enough. I am enough. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It is a continuous journey of learning and adjustments. There were moments when I let go of something and then missed it. Instances when I held on to items that remained unused. The important thing was to stay committed to the process, understanding that each decision was an opportunity to better understand my true needs and values. Another fundamental aspect of this journey was learning to deal with the reactions of the people around me. Not everyone understood immediately. Some interpreted my quest for less as a form of deprivation. Others felt judged in their own consumption habits. I learned to explain gently that minimalism is not about living with less out of sacrifice, but about creating space for what truly matters. An unexpected benefit of this transformation was the impact on my finances. By reducing impulsive spending and focusing only on what I truly needed or loved, I saw my expenses significantly decrease. The money saved was directed towards experiences that added value to my life. Traveling, taking courses, spending time with loved ones. Over time, I realized that minimalism extended beyond physical objects. I began to apply the same principles to my time, committing only to activities that aligned with my values, to my relationships, investing energy in the connections that nourished me, to my thoughts, learning to identify and release unnecessary worries. The space we create around us reflects and influences our internal space. An untidy home often reveals and feeds an unsettled mind. By simplifying my environment, I was simultaneously simplifying my mental and emotional processes. I observed how Japanese aesthetics value the concept of ma, the empty space between objects. This space is not seen as a void to be filled, but as an essential element that allows each object to breathe and be truly appreciated. I began to view the empty spaces in my home not as a lack, but as a conscious presence. I also learned about the practice of wabi-sabi, finding beauty in imperfection and transience. This liberated me from the pursuit of perfection that so often paralyzes us. My home didn't need to resemble a decor catalogue. The small marks of use on my favorite objects told stories. The imperfections made the space authentic, truly mine. One of the most profound transformations occurred in my relationship with memories. Before, I held on to items like anchors for precious recollections, concert tickets, travel souvenirs, gifts from loved ones. The problem was that these objects piled up, lost in boxes and drawers, seldom seen or appreciated. I learned to separate memory from the object. The recollection of a special moment doesn't disappear when we part with the object associated with it. In fact, memories often become more vivid when we don't rely on external triggers to access them. For the truly significant memories, I created a single memory chest, a beautiful box where I keep only those items of deep sentimental value. The act of limitation forced me to identify what was genuinely important. The result was surprising. Instead of a dozen boxes filled with vague memories, I have a single curated collection of truly meaningful items. The minimalist kitchen has also transformed my relationship with food. With fewer visual distractions and a serene space for preparing meals, I naturally began to cook with more awareness. The simplicity of the environment is reflected in my food choices: fewer processed items, more whole foods, and appropriate portions. In the bedroom, the absence of technology and the reduction of visual stimuli have drastically improved my sleep. Without my phone on the nightstand, I've started reading more before bed. Without the TV, I've rediscovered the pleasure of watching the sunrise through the window. Each morning has become an opportunity to start the day with clarity and intention. As my home became more organized and minimalist, I noticed a change in how I received guests. Before, I felt anxious and embarrassed when someone dropped by unexpectedly. Now my home is always ready to welcome people. This not only reduced my social stress, but also allowed me to be more spontaneous and open to connections. One practical aspect that made all the difference was creating simple organization systems. For each category of items, I established a specific and logical spot. Everyday items are easily accessible, while those used occasionally are stored in an organized manner. When everything has its place, keeping things organized is no longer a Herculean task, but becomes a natural habit. The entryway remains a critical point in maintaining balance. I created what I call a decompression station, a small ritual upon arriving home. Shoes are removed and stored. Keys are placed in the bowl. The bag is emptied of receipts and unnecessary papers. These simple gestures mark the transition between the outside world and my personal space. In the kitchen, the principle of mise en place, having everything in its place before you start cooking, has completely transformed the experience. With clear countertops and organized utensils, preparing meals has become almost meditative. There's no longer the frustration of searching for a tool in the middle of the process or the feeling of chaos at the end. In the bedroom, I adopted the practice of making my bed as soon as I wake up. This simple act of order creates a cascading effect for the rest of the day. As productivity experts say, completing this small task early in the morning gives us an immediate sense of accomplishment and sets the tone for the hours to come. Another important aspect was learning to say no to certain categories of objects. I identified my accumulation triggers, items I tended to collect without thinking, books, beauty products, empty boxes that might be useful one day. I set clear limits for these categories and developed the habit of questioning each new acquisition. An interesting revelation was realizing that minimalism is not about rigid rules or a specific aesthetic. It's not simply about having X number of items or living in an all-white, sterile space. True minimalism is deeply personal. It's about identifying what brings value to your unique life and eliminating the rest. My home today is neither perfect nor completely empty. It has personality, warmth, and life. The difference is that each object has been chosen consciously. Each space has been designed intentionally. The result is an environment that supports me rather than drains me, that welcomes me rather than overwhelms me. The transformations that began in these three corners, the entryway, kitchen, and bedroom, have gradually spread throughout the entire house and, more importantly, to my entire life. Minimalism has become a lens through which I evaluate my choices, not just concerning objects, but about how I spend my time, energy, and attention. I learned that organizing is not a final destination, but an ongoing practice. It's not about achieving a perfect state of order that never requires maintenance. It's about developing habits and systems that make upkeep simple and natural. The minimalist home taught me about the power of small daily choices, like deciding to put something back in its place instead of leaving it on the table, like resisting an impulsive buy, like valuing space as much as we value what we put in it. I also realized how our relationship with objects often reflects deeper emotional patterns, the fear of not having enough that leads to clutter, the difficulty in letting go that keeps obsolete items in our lives, the desire for external approval that drives us to buy things to impress others. Minimalism invited me to confront these patterns with honesty and compassion, to recognize that my consumption choices weren't always based on real needs, but on insecurities, thoughtless habits, or social pressures. Today, when I enter my home, I feel a sense of relief and welcome. There is no longer the silent oppression of unloved objects begging for attention. There is no more guilt from unfinished projects staring at me from forgotten corners. There is space to breathe, to think, to simply be. This journey taught me that true abundance is not in having more, but in needing less. That freedom does not come from accumulating possibilities, but from making choices aligned with who we really are. If you're feeling the weight of objects in your life, I invite you to look with fresh eyes at these three corners of your home, the entryway, the kitchen, and the bedroom. Observe what they are communicating about your inner life. Ask yourself, is this space serving me? Is it reflecting who I am and who I want to be? Transformation can begin with a simple gesture, putting your keys in a designated spot, organizing a drawer, clearing space on your nightstand. Small changes that, over time, create a wave of clarity and intention. Remember, this is not a journey of deprivation but of liberation. It's not about living with less out of sacrifice, but about making room for what truly nourishes your soul. It's about replacing the burden of excess with the lightness of enough. In the end, I realized that Japanese minimalism is not just an aesthetic approach, but a philosophy of life, one that invites us to be present, to make conscious choices, and to find beauty in simplicity, to create a home that not only shelters our body, but also nourishes our spirit. A transformed home becomes a sanctuary in a chaotic world, a space where we can truly rest, create freely, and live fully, a physical reflection of the inner clarity we all seek. Your home doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't have to follow strict rules or fit into a specific aesthetic. It just needs to be truly yours, a space that supports your life instead of complicating it, that embraces your essence instead of suffocating it with excess. The journey of minimalism is deeply personal, but its benefits are universal. Mental clarity, emotional peace, financial freedom, more authentic connections, a renewed sense of purpose and presence. May you find in the spaces between objects the breath your soul seeks. May you discover in intentional simplicity the abundance that has always been there, just waiting to be revealed. Share this blessed video so it can reach and help others like you and me. Don't forget to click the subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being part of our faith community. If you'd like to support our channel a little more, consider becoming a member of our channel. I'm sharing 2 more videos to help you continue your search. Thank you, and may God bless you all. See you soon.